back to the Dan Corder Show. South Africa is a movie and you're on the watch party. Still to come, show correspondent Mashnotpotatoes is here to tell us about a food phenomenon sweeping South Africa that sounds odd and is often dangerous. And esteemed journalist Ferrell Haffajee joins us later to talk about the new, latest, ongoing Johannesburg mayor drama. Before then, though, I'm going to try and achieve something impossible because I'm going to try and make stats sexy. I know, right? I can see your hearts are racing. They're going pitter-patter, pitter-patter. Look, I know for most of us, stats are incredibly boring, but everyone in the country needs to know about the absolute fuff-up involving Stats SA. Because Stats SA is really, really important. They're the organization whose job it is to find out what is really going on in South Africa. They use censuses, surveys, and other research to literally find out what South Africa is, what life is like for South Africans, and what is going well and what is going badly in the country. Stats SA's information is used to determine government budgets and influence which policies are introduced and which are canned. Stats SA's data can be the difference between a community getting more money to fix its sewage system or not, and the difference between a new policy to help hearing impaired people existing or not. And this information is used by the private sector too. In Stats SA's own words, this information could, for example, be applied to the agriculture industry for business planning purposes if you know the number and spread of your consumers, and you will know how to plan for the distribution of your product. Sexy. Okay. But what I need you to understand is, if Stats SA screws up, the consequences can be really, really bad for all South Africans. And Stats SA, they just screwed up. Like Katy Perry's latest album screwed up. Big time. Hey, don't tell me you liked Women's World. Okay. Every 10 years or so, Stats SA conducts an enormous piece of research called a census, which is, according to Stats SA's own website, supposed to determine the number of people living in South Africa, who we are in terms of age, sex, education, occupation, economic activity, and other important characteristics. Information about where we live in terms of housing, access to water, and the availability of essential facilities. We don't know what and who we are as a country without the census. Stats SA conducted their latest census a few years ago. Census 2022 was the first one since 2011. And since then, South Africa has changed a ton. It was vital that we got updated data on the state of the nation. You guys with me? You with me? Yeah. The reason the census is such a big deal is that it's the only time Stats SA tries to count and interview people in the country. It's really expensive and difficult, which is why it only happens every 10 years or so. And everywhere in the world, it's impossible to interview everyone, right? You can't interview 66 million people. So there's always what we call an undercount, which is the number of people that they didn't manage to reach. The better the census, the smaller the undercount. And if the undercount is small, you can make statistical adjustments for it and therefore extrapolate to figure out what's going on with the whole country. And it turns out Stats SA thinks that this census had a 30% undercount, guys. They interviewed 30% too few people, which is actually a global record undercount. It's a record failure, which makes this South Africa's second major record bad thing, along with mass unemployment, where we are literally top of the unwanted charts. It's about double the undercount from the last census in 2011. It's way, way, way too big an undercount to provide accurate information. Now, Stats SA blamed COVID and people not answering their doorbells for safety reasons or not allowing interviews because they thought that they were being scammed. But all of that was predicted to happen, and Stats SA still failed to find solutions to overcome those obstacles. Stats SA blames South Africa's Treasury because Treasury apparently wouldn't roll over the allocated budget for the census to a year later when COVID would have been less of a problem, which forced Stats SA to go ahead when they didn't want to. So they ended up with a 30% undercount and real discrepancies in their findings. One demographer found that Stats SA overestimated South Africa's population by more than 1 million people too many. They overcounted the white population, which is a problem they've had before, and the Indian population and the populations of some small towns. If all of this is true, then the whole census is likely to be contaminated. like an ANC official in a government department. But Stats SA insisted and still insists that the census is usable, and they've refused to engage with independent researchers' criticisms. And then last week, they finally confessed. They published a list of exclusions, which are research areas from the census where Stats SA now admits that the data is too unreliable to use, so they won't release it publicly. And these research areas are big ones, guys. Mortality and fertility, income and earnings, labor and unemployment, meaning we don't have up-to-date census information on deaths, births, pregnancies, how much people are earning, how many people have jobs, what the jobs are like. It's an absolutely massive fuff to clear up. It suggests that the independent researchers were right to say that the census was broken, and it has real-world consequences. It's extremely unlikely that another census will be sanctioned soon, but government budgets still need to be allocated, policies still need to be developed and cancelled, and business still needs to act on this information. And as long as Stats SA insists that the census is fine, government departments might be legally forced to use statistics that we all know are wrong. So now we wait to see if someone in government can come up with a solution to clean up this mess, because we really, really need one. That was not sexy, but thank you for sitting through it with me. Right, let's change gears a little bit. We are now very excited to present the latest episode in our own reality TV competition, because we now have a new winner to crown on the South African Pothole Awards! Yes, the Snappers! No, thanks. Okay, welcome to the Sappers, where we celebrate our country's greatest potholes and the local government officials who have been vital to these potholes' success by doing absolutely nothing to fix them. We're honoring the biggest potholes, the oldest potholes, the deepest potholes, the ones that cause the most traffic and the ones that take out the most tires. Last week, the crown went to Everton West Mfuleni, where Mayor Sipho Radebe has overseen the growth of this magnificent pothole that actually becomes a community swimming pool in the rainy season. Phenomenal work from Mayor Radebe there, making this multi-purpose facility possible. But this week we're off to Ga-Rankuwa in Gauteng. Thank you so much to S, who will keep anonymous, for nominating the pothole on Motsuminyana Street near Tsuene High School. Well, I say a pothole, S says that the whole street is now a pothole. Dan caught a space satellite show cam. Can we please take a look from space? But I don't even see a street there. I don't see a street for a pothole to be on. Dan caught a show drone cam. Let's see what we can see there, please.
Oh, is that the street?
That pothole has eaten the street, guys. Man, that is a Super Saiyan pothole. Judges, audience, how are we feeling? Does this deserve a sapper? All right, you heard them. Congratulations to the Motsuminyana Street pothole in Ga-Rankuwa and all of the local leaders who have made this pothole possible over the years, including former mayors, the ANC's Gwen Ramakgopa, Josienso Ramakgopa, the DA's Solim Simanga, Stevens Makolapa, and Randall Williams, and Congress of the People's Moruna Makwarela. This is truly a GNU effort from all sides to put this pothole together, and you will be delighted to learn that you have won a South African Pothole Award. Yes, the crown is going to We'll give current Mayor Celias Brink a year. He's only been there for a year, so we'll give him a little break. And that because he has recently started a road rejuvenation project in Ga-Rankuwa. But to all of those who came before him that left Ga-Rankuwa's roads in this state, congratulations on your sapper. Where will the crown be going next week? That's up to you. If you've got a pothole that you think deserves a sapper, you need to nominate it, like S did. Send your sapper nomination to potawards@gmail.com. Yes, potawards@gmail.com. And remember to really sell your pothole's best qualities. Let us know what makes it so great. And we'll be back next week to crown the next winner on the South African Pothole Awards, exclusive to the Dan Corder Show on eNCA. Now, it's time to welcome back Dan Corder Show correspondent Mashnotpotatoes is here! Hey, Mash. What do you got planned for us today? What's news in the news?
Thank you very much, Dan. South African women are currently in the midst of a silent pandemic. No, I'm not talking about the word demure.
Hey.
It was side-eye then. It was cutesy, it was mindful, now it's just annoying. Stop.
No, I like it.
Side-eye. This pandemic, however, is perhaps the most surprising, rather. Yeah. What you just saw is a young woman having a light snack of umcako. Umcako is also known as umhlabathi, clay, or African cutberry. Medically, umcako is also known as geophagia. Geophagia is the intentional ingestion of soil, sand, or clay. It traces all the way back to the Roman physicians, who also ate rocks, sand, or clay for all types of reasons, such as medicinal, religious, or as Julius Caesar would say, just in jail. But in South Africa, women have been seen eating umcako at an alarming rate, and that can potentially risk their lives. So tonight, we'll be taking a look at umcako, why do people eat it, and what are its dangers. So, to start with, umcako is made up of brown or red brick soil. Amongst umcako enthusiasts, there is a heated discussion as to which clay tastes better, the red umcako or the brown umcako. Kind of like how there's vigorous academic discussion about which Coke tastes better, Coke from the red bottle or Coke from the black bottle. And I'll tell you now, the black bottle just tastes somehow, right? Anyway, umcako can be found in gardens, termite hills, mountains, rivers. Pretty much, if alostro is within your area, there's probably umcako nearby. People eat umcako either because of its crunchy sound or even because of its earthy taste. Like, it's kind of like how people, when they describe wine, for instance, like, this is from the northern region of France, by the best winemakers in the world. Oui, oui. Like, how do you describe the taste of rocks? Like, this is premium Steiner from the northern regions of the back room. Better yet, if you want to be a mine worker for your daily fix of umcako, the clay can be found on virtually every street corner, taxi rank, or spaza for as little as 4 rand. And if you're at Johannesburg, you can even buy yourself a bag of umcako on Take-A-Lot. I'm telling you, it's a real thing, this thing. On Take-A-Lot, umcako is described as being roasted brown premium clay with no impurities or additives. That's like the most Woolworths way of advertising rocks. Like, I imagine, what would Dan's Take-A-Lot description be like? Like Cape Town premium propaganda puppet with luxurious hobo beanies.
That's fair.
It's fair.
I think that's spot on.
I'm telling you. You might be wondering, of all the weird things women have eaten unprovoked, like muesli, why are South African women actually eating dirt? Well, umcako shares an audience with Days of Our Lives, as it is primarily consumed by pregnant women who eat umcako in order to fulfill their cravings or as a result of iron deficiencies. According to one study, umcako is even said to help lighten one's skin. Kanyumbao might be a fan. Despite the positive impact it has on the economic frontal fighters, umcako possesses a severe risk to pregnant women. Already, women lose a heck of a lot of blood during labor, and when you couple that with a clay addiction, women are sadly being set up for a life-threatening pregnancy, which will require blood transfusions. Moreover, due to the lack of nutrients in umcako, because, I don't know, you're eating rocks, it has the potential to stunt the growth of a baby during pregnancy. It's bad enough that we're being finished by polony, and now we're being finished by rocks, you know? Jokes aside, it should alarm us all how easily accessible umcako is and how potentially dangerous it is to pregnant mothers. So, I usually don't have to explain stuff like this, but you know that eating rocks is unregulated, right? Like, medical professions are even telling patients who eat clay rocks to prepare for their funerals. That's a warning you tell KZN criminals whenever you're fighting against General Mkwanas. More education needs to be put out on the dangers of eating clay, because although you are eating dust, it should not end in dust to dust, ashes to ashes. Mashnotpotatoes, eNCA.
Mashnotpotatoes, everybody! Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to Kanye Mbao's email. We're going to take a quick break. Coming up in a second, we welcome the hosts of the Know-It-Alls podcast, culture critics Ayanda Charlie and Fezukhutle Mtonti, to speak about maybe the most famous or infamous celebrity entanglement in South Africa between Mihlali Ndamase and Leroy Sidambe. Their very public, often physical fights, and how we should engage with such high-profile people involved in such an abusive and destructive kind of relationship. That's next on the Dan Quarter Show. See you now.